Hey guys, hello and welcome to Spud Life with me, your host, Tatty Tim. Okay, so without further ado, let's crack on with this week's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of Spud Life. Here we are again in the Caravan of Love, and I've got my very first female guest on the show.
Yay!
At last. So I'm really happy to introduce everybody to Chris Jackson. I even said that just off camera, didn't I? And Chris is got a fabulous health barn down in a place called Askham, which people that don't know the area, is just sort of right on the very edge of the Lake District. Beautiful little village. And she does all alternative therapies. And we're about to learn all about how that came about and why it came about. And stay tuned, watch and listen. Hey, Chris, thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to be the first female.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. So, on the little bit of blurb that we've been doing back and forth, we're going to get into all the alternative kind of stuff that you've kind of pioneered and got going in town. But you said that when you were 18, you moved, because you're from here originally. You sort of
born and bred in Penrith. Yeah.
But at 18 you decided to up sticks and move to the good old US of A?
Absolutely. Well, I was lucky enough every year to get a foreign holiday.
Right.
Like my grandmother took the family away, and it was always Spain.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to live here one day. And then I went to college after school up at Carlisle, learned about looking after people with disabilities, the elderly, and I was working then in Rose Lodge in Penrith, which was sort of a nursing home, and for kids.
Right.
And then an advert in the Herald came up for a job in San Francisco to be a nanny, and it was through, so you know David Brass and the egg farm at Stainton. It was his sister, Judith.
So she'd moved to the States?
Yeah, she went to Harvard Business School and had settled over there.
Right.
Got married to a French guy, and then they had their first child and wanted someone from here that she could get on with, hopefully.
So they both gained American citizenship?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They were high flyers.
Were they?
Yeah, very much so.
I suppose you go to Harvard Business School.
Yeah. She worked for Apple Computer, and he was a business consultant.
Right.
So I went to the grandmother of Jonathan for an interview, so Mrs. Brass at Stainton.
So you went to Stainton for that?
Yeah. And it was a 4-hour interview.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Tea, cakes, everything was laid out. It was the best interview I've ever had.
And you were just an 18-year-old girl.
Yeah. Very naive.
Just straight out of college.
Yeah. And then literally 2 days later, I got a phone call from Judith, and she booked me flights, and I was out.
You didn't even have time to think about it.
No.
Wow.
And then
and straight to San Francisco.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So what era? What times was this?
90s.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
That'd been wicked. Cause I know the grunge scene was in kind of like Seattle and that, but nevertheless there was such a
it was like
music.
pure hippie, and I was right on Castro, which at that point was like the gay capital of the world.
Was it?
And I was there for 2 days, and then we went skiing for a week in Lake Tahoe, and it was like,
what's happened?
What?
So you gone from Carlisle College, living in Penrith,
to
boom, the high life.
Absolutely, it was the high life.
Wow.
Yeah, I was extremely lucky. Had an amazing time.
So did you get a lot of time off?
Yeah, I worked Monday to Friday, weekends off.
So you had your weekends?
Partied well.
I was going to say, was it kind of easy? Because you're a very sociable person, so I can imagine it was quite...
Oh, I wasn't then.
Were you not?
No.
Really
I was very, very quiet.
Were you?
Yeah, very naive.
Right.
And
did your English accent maybe help break the ice?
They all thought I was Australian. So it was a good icebreaker, I suppose. But going to kids groups with Jonathan, it was an easy way to meet people. So I met an Irish girl that had been out there for 2 years.
There's supposed to be quite a lot of nannies as well if you're in that kind of environment.
Yeah, nannies and au pairs, loads of au pairs.
Yeah, and you'll all be similar ages, I'm guessing.
Yeah, most of my friends were. Yeah. And then she introduced me to mainly rap, reggae, the black clubs, and I had the time of my life. It was amazing. It was.
I bet it was
amazing. And what I loved was you could walk down the street,
Yeah.
you could look like anything, wear anything, and no one cared.
No one give you a second look.
Yeah, and everyone was friendly.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Oh,
and then I was there for 3 years with them, travelled all over with them, and then we moved to Paris as a family.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was great.
So you've really had a fantastic time,
your
late teens, early 20s by the sound of it.
Yeah, that certainly opened my eyes.
How long were you in Paris for?
Almost 2 years.
So did you pick the language up as you went? Or
No.
No. Did you have a bit of like schoolgirl kind of pidgin French?
Before, I could get by. Yeah. And I did night classes when I was in San Francisco. That was part of the deal.
Right, yeah.
And I could get by, but most of my friends were either American or British. Right. So, because it was the nanny scene there.
Yeah, of course.
And then that was amazing.
Really mingle with the locals, so to speak, I suppose.
Not in Paris. No, we were frowned upon. Yeah, nannies were like, bottom of the pile. The hired help. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and it was very much like that. There was a real snobby culture.
What's that, real hierarchy?
Yeah, definitely.
That? Even the butlers looked down on you.
Yeah. It was. And then Judith didn't tell me that they were moving back to America.
Right.
Because she knew that I wanted to go to university.
Right.
So I was applying here.
Yeah.
I came back, did a BTEC at Carlisle, and that leapfrogged me into uni. Yeah. And I wanted to do anthropology, social anthropology and psychology, but maths is shit. I'm dyslexic and my maths is pants.
Is it?
So that didn't happen.
Right.
And then wrote to her and told her, and she then was like, well, we're looking for someone else. The person that we did have hasn't worked out. And I'd met my now still best friend Helen on the college bus at Carlisle, and got her the job.
Wow.
That introduced her to Judith, and she went out there. And then Judith asked if I wanted to go and train Helen. So I was like, yeah,
why not?
Absolutely. So then I spent 3 months over there, a month back here, 3 months over there, and I did that for a couple of years.
Wow. That's fantastic.
My big duffel bag, my rollerblades, and I was off.
Back to San Francisco again.
Yeah. And different places. She got me jobs with her friends.
Brilliant.
So I was in Boulder for 3 months in Colorado.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Wow, what a life. Yeah.
I was just on my blades all the time when I wasn't with the kids. Yeah. Beautiful place. Yeah. And then just hop skipping it about. It was just amazing.
Obviously they were paying you as well.
Yeah.
So when it wasn't really a project, so to speak.
It was it was incredible. And I ended up moving back here with £8 to my name. Didn't save a penny.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Party.
It was.
I love it.
There was brilliant. And in Paris, there's like, under the Champs-Elysees, there's loads of clubs.
Is there?
And people just don't know about it unless you've been there for a while.
Yeah.
So.
What's literally underneath it? Wow. Are they still there now, do you think?
I've no idea. I guess so.
They probably will be.
Yeah, I've not been back actually.
So that would have been. Were you big into the rave scene and that then, or?
Yeah, lots of dance music. It was just anything that went. I've got quite an eclectic taste in music. So.
To listen to Chrissy's top 10 on her when she puts her top 10 on.
I've been putting it together.
On the Spotify playlist.
Yeah. So I came back. While I was at college in Carlisle, I actually just went as an extra person to do a floristry NVQ because they needed to fill the spaces.
Right.
Pretty random.
Yeah.
But then became a florist. So I was in Vine and Roses in Penrith. I'd just gone round walking. That was in Angel Lane.
Angel Lane, yeah.
I was walking around just asking for jobs as you could then.
Yeah.
Just walking into places, seeing what was available. And started the following day running the shop.
No way.
Yeah, just with a day's training.
That's fantastic.
That was amazing. I absolutely loved it.
That as well.
Yeah, and then
so
I was
still only 25ish then at that point. Or?
Yeah, 24.
Were you?
24.
That's great.
I know, it was incredible. Still going out a lot because back then Penrith was a good place to go out in. And that was how you caught up with all your mates as well, Thursday nights, Friday nights. It was the best way to do it. Then I was decided I needed to sort myself out. I wanted to still go to university. And then I found a course that was specialising in adults with learning disabilities. So I got onto that because it wasn't academic. It was more about your personality and how you were with people. And because my background was in care anyway, I had the experience. So I was the oldest one on the course. Had to go and do my GCSE maths at 24-year-old and sat in the hall with all the 16-year-olds.
Oh my God.
I was like, no, this is not the life I wanted.
But you passed it.
Yeah. I still only got a C, but it was a pass.
I think I could do it.
I think the pressure of sitting with all the 16-year-olds, it was crazy. So I got onto that course. That was down in Manchester. And then I worked for the Glenmore Trust.
I know that.
And that was just at Church Mews. And I was a support worker for 5 individuals and then key worker for 2 individuals there, and absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Because it must be nice to be able to form a relationship, because I'm guessing you must have been there for long enough to form relationships with the people that live in the place. So it's because some people I speak to, when I'm at work, and they're not getting chance. They're in a similar sort of job that you were doing then, but because of the situation nowadays, whether it be lack of staff or time restraints or whatever, they're not getting the opportunity to form that relationship with the other person. So then they're not getting the best.
Exactly. We were really lucky because, well, I suppose in a way we were working 24.5-hour shifts.
Bloody hell. So you were living in?
So I was living still at my parents' at that point. Driving down to Manchester for uni, and then I would do 24.5-hour shifts. So I'd leave there at 10, go down to uni, and then come back up and do another shift. And it was a bit crazy.
I bet it was.
It was crazy. For the first year, I did live in Stockport, and then got my job at Glenmore, and then moved back up here again.
Back up to Penrith.
And then did that job for I think 6 years. My memory's sketchy, but I did that for 6 years, and then I had met my who became my husband. We had our first daughter, and when I went back to work, it was 12 weeks, so she was only 12 weeks old when I went back, and I suffered from postnatal depression, and recognised that I couldn't give 100% there anymore and 100% at home. So sadly I had to leave that job. And I also had back problems. That's when my sort of back problems really started.
Was that from the actual physical giving birth?
I think, it was part of it, but I'd had issues prior to that. I think having a crazy rollerblading, a bit of an adrenaline junkie life, falling a lot.
Didn't help.
I was, and I'd had back issues probably from about the age of 12. And what we found out later on is that I'm hypermobile, and that has quite an impact on the body.
Is that exactly what it sounds like?
I'm just bendy. Really bendy. Which is, I had great party tricks. I know, both legs behind my head. I could get on my knees and walk across the floor on my knees. Gin can do that. But I had no idea what was going on, and every time they would investigate, it was like, you're too young to have issues, just get fitter. So it was a peculiar time, and I just had to live with it. And then when my daughter was born, it was a case of just getting jobs that I enjoyed, that fit in around family life. And then had my second daughter, and ended up working at Larch Cottage Nurseries. But prior to that, while I was doing my third year at uni, I got glandular fever and ended up bedridden So I had post-viral fatigue, and then was diagnosed with ME.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in a really bad state, and I can't remember much about it.
Right.
But that was...
This was with a really young child.
No, this was before they were born.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
I'm jumping back again.
Right.
It was before they were born.
It
was my last year at uni down there.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a good 6 months where I was completely out of action.
You were just completely...
Yeah.
What's it like that? Are you just absolutely knackered?
I couldn't do anything. I was in bed. I would have to, if I needed the loo, I'd have to crawl and drag myself to the bathroom.
Wow.
Sleep on the bathroom floor, and then eventually drag myself back into bed again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really,
and
is that
it was just
completely. Because I mean, I remember when it not necessarily became a thing, it's a bad kind of thing to say, but you remember when it was kind of like it was in the news a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
was.
was
Like MEs, like people they're talking rubbish. It's just snap out of it type thing, wasn't it? There was a lot of that sort of culture going on.
Very much so. And I was lucky because I was with sharp doctors,
right?
And it was the doctor there, and she was like, "This is really bad."
Yeah.
She came to the house to see me. Well, we lived above a pub then, and so there wasn't much peace and quiet. But it was crazy, absolutely crazy, because I'd been fit and healthy.
Well, exactly. I mean, why would someone who's lived the lifestyle you'd lived up until then suddenly decide to think, you know what, I'm going to pretend to be really ill?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just mad.
Yeah.
And
no one would wish that on anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like day after day after day. I had no concept of what time it was or what was going on. It was just really bad.
Yeah.
And then I had reflexology previous to that with Sonia, who lived in Chaps. Sonia Allen Wall, absolutely incredible woman, and she helped me recover. And she did kinesiology testing and to test which foods weren't suiting me, and then gave me reflexology and really supported me to get better, and helped me understand that my body can't process carbs the same way the average person can.
Right.
So instead of using them as the first quick energy, they would lay dormant.
Right.
And then that turned into fat.
Yeah.
And it makes you really tired.
Yes. Yeah.
So she helped me to recover. And then, I was still at Glenmore Trust, went back to work, then had my first daughter, and I was sort of recovered from there, but then had the back issues really kicked in after that. Started working at Larch Cottage Nurseries, and I absolutely loved it there.
Did you?
That was amazing. It was, I could go and do my job and then go home and be mum and wife and everything else, and it was great. And being around the plants and everything and nature, it's just really healing as it is. But sadly, lifting pots, bending over, weeding, doing all of that stuff. Working outside all weathers, that was tough.
Because which part of your back is
lumbar?
Is it?
Right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
So my back had gone into spasm several times. Still going back to the doctors. We were living in Hackthorpe at that point, so I was part of Penrith, and they still kept saying, you've just got to get fit. You're too young. And I'm like, right, okay, here's some pills. So that was the journey into cocodamol daily, and then that moved on to anti-inflammatories, and then diazepam.
Did it? Oh no.
Yeah, and then on top of that, tramadol. And that was crazy, and that was for years.
Was it?
Yeah. And then it kept getting worse and worse.
That's
and
almost at that Oxycontin
kind
of level, isn't it?
I don't know how I functioned. I mean, there's no wonder I've got no brain now, but I really don't know how I functioned.
That's crazy. Because were you? Because I've never taken tramadol or anything like that. Even when I had my knee, I was given it, but I didn't take it.
Yeah.
And it was just because I've heard so many people say they're just completely zonked on it. And is that what you were like? Were you kind of?
I think I got used to it so quickly, and I was still in pain. Yeah. So it was just counterproductive, really. But I thought, well, this is what I've got to do. This is my life. And then I literally made the bed one morning, moved the quilt down on the floor, absolutely, completely in spasm. And eventually my husband got me into the car. We got to A&E, and it was a locum, and he went, I can tell looking at you, you've got a prolapse disc. And he's like, right, you need to see someone, you need to be taken in, have some x-rays, have an MRI scan, and we need to sort this out. And that was really the start of me understanding what was going on and not thinking, well, what's wrong with me?
So was this happening gradually? This disc was...
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
But that was the final straw, basically.
Yeah. Because if it traps the nerves, then you get the nerve damage and you get the spasms and everything. So then I thought, there's got to be another way. And that's when I got back in touch with Sonia, started seeing her again. I also met Bryony Stott, and she does, at that point, she was doing bioenergy healing.
Right.
And she saw me one day and she's like, just come and see me. And I'm like, I'll give anything a try. And she was incredible, and she really helped on more an emotional level with stuff and tried to get me to understand how the body stores trauma, how it stores lots of the emotional stuff that we don't deal with, and really helped with that. And then I was seeing Sonia for the physical side of things, and then it got to a point where it was happening so much that my GP went, enough's enough now, you've got to go down disability. I was losing feeling in my legs a lot. So she was like, you can't carry on in that job. You've got to go down disability. I saw a specialist in Newcastle, and when he looked at my MRI scan, he couldn't understand why I could walk.
Are you kidding? It was that bad?
Yeah. And he was like, right. So the diagnosis he gave me at that point were degenerative disc disease, arthritis in my hips, pelvis and spine, and then the prolapse discs. And I think that was it, because I've had so many labels thrown at me over the years. And he said, so my plan is we'll inject into the base of your spine, and if I numb some of the nerves, I want to find out if it's the prolapse discs pressing on the nerves that are causing the problem, or if it's the arthritis.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not an experiment. I don't fancy sticking the needle into my spine just to see. Because he said, if you can't give me a general scale of how bad things are from 1 to 10, and I'm like, on a bad day it's 10. The rest of the time it just varies, and I'm on all the meds. So I kind of ignored him. Went back to Sonia for my reflexology, and I went down that route. And then I was going for massages, and I found that I was left worse. And it was just a case of, it was too much stimulation around my lower back. And so I could have a massage and then be stuck on the sofa for a week afterwards. So it wasn't worth it. So I carried on with Sonia, and she was amazing at just helping me understand my body, understand how to take care of myself better. And then with the whole disability flag, I was like, that's not an option. No. I'm in my 30s, I've got 2 young girls. What example is it to them? So I talked to her about it. Talked to her, I was in a state, I was in tears. I'm like, I can't do disability, it's not for me. I just thought it'd be a black hole. And if I went down that black hole, I wouldn't get out. So she said, well, do this. What do you mean? I shouldn't do this. She said, you're forever asking me questions. Your background's in care. Why don't you look at massage or something? So I was like, oh, okay. So we did have Google then. So I went back, and my husband said, just go and look at your books and see what you've got on your bookshelves, because I love books. And I had photography, theology, and then complementary and alternative therapies. I'd done a night class in Indian head massage, and I was interested in aromatherapy oils and crystals and all of that stuff. And I thought, theology, I'm interested in it, but don't want to be a vicar. That's not for me. And the photography at that point was just starting to get into digital, and I thought it'll cost a fortune to start on that road. So yeah, I googled courses, and there was a complementary therapy Bachelor of Science.
That degree.
So yeah, when I first rang up, I wanted to do the aromatherapy massage, but because I couldn't really stand up straight because of the state I was in, they were like, "There's no way we're going to let you massage. You'll be pushing people off the table, and you'll be getting on." So you could do that route or reflexology, and I'm like, "But that's feet." And they were like, "Well, you have reflexology," and I went, "Yeah, it's great. I love it." And they were like, "Well, there you go. That's your two options. So we think you should do the reflexology." So it covered everything. We studied with the nurses, the physios, midwives. Wow. It was, so that was the anatomy. Oh, sorry. The anatomy, physiology and pathology. That was really intense. So same as nurses. And then there was the interpersonal skills, because you had to get on with everyone and prove yourself. And then it covered everything about running a business, everything about, obviously, the body and how the reflexology works, the history of it. There was so much covered. We had an amazing lecturer, Ali, who her bedtime reading is journal articles. So she'd come in and just open us up to all this stuff. And it was fantastic. But I also learnt about medications.
Did you?
Yeah, because we had to do case studies. We needed to understand. And the first thing I realised was I needed to come off cocodamol. That is the worst drug going. Worse than diazepam and tramadol.
Is it?
Yeah. It's so negative for the body. It causes too many side effects. And it turns to morphine in your system.
Does it? Hence the addictive nature of it.
And it doesn't take away pain, it just masks it, which a lot of it does anyway, to be fair.
That's why I don't bother taking it for that reason, because it's not curing your problem, all it's doing is masking it, and the problem's still there.
Definitely.
You do other things to get rid of the problem, don't you?
Absolutely. So that was the start of my healing, because I went to uni for something to do. Didn't intend on starting a business or anything. It was literally just something to do, and I like detail. I want to know the arse end of a fart, so I thought, why not? But it was just fascinating. And then working with people and seeing the impact on them when they started to learn about their bodies and how to take care of themselves better.
Did you have sort of, like hairdressers have models that come in and they cut their hair? Did you have people coming in and you have to have a quick...
absolutely.
And could you tell, I mean, the first few times, was it like...
It's a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
It's weird, isn't it?
So scary.
Like that feet thing. It's like,
Once I'd done it a few times, I was absolutely fine. And there's always wipes. Health and hygiene, you've got to use wipes. So that was every week we had like an open clinic. And we would treat each other. And then because there was the aromatherapy massage students, then we would share, so they would use us as models and we would use them.
Excellent.
So that was great. And then you'd have to write it all up and learn everything that there was to learn. But the biggest thing I learned was the anatomy and physiology, and then I could take care of myself better, or the physiology side of it.
It's amazing how many people have no concept of how the body works, of what goes on, anything at all of that. It's just
absolutely,
like, they just get up in the morning, do the thing, go to bed at night.
And the same with feet. We abuse them, don't we? 100%. We just get up, stomp on them all day long, don't take very good care of them. People sometimes,
and just walk, and they never feel anything but leather, whereas you should walk in grass and let them feel,
let them breathe
the earth. Exactly. So, but no one does they? Except I tell you what there is nowadays, there's a lot. I don't know whether it's just me because of things I'm looking at on the internet, which aren't all bad. But you get things up on your feed, and I've been looking at these natural shoes.
Barefoot shoes. And there's a really good new company, a British company actually. I should have thought about this and name checked them earlier.
But they sound fantastic, and they've got some really kind of normal ones that you kind of wear around the city, but they do these kind of off-roady kind of ones that you can wear for hiking and stuff like that. And
yeah, they're absolutely brilliant.
A pair of them because they sound brilliant.
Yeah, I had a pair a couple of years ago that I got as swimming shoes because I do the wild swimming.
Yeah.
And then, jumping to a couple of years ago, I did. It is relevant right now. So, over the years, the last few years, I believed I would never get up a fell.
Right.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
So I bought barefoot shoes,
Yeah.
and when I got divorced, I was like, right, I'm going to get out there.
Yeah.
And did a charity month, so walked 58 miles in February and got to the top of Cat Bells and was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was my barefoot shoes that helped me get up there because I couldn't wear normal. Every walking boot I put on was just agony.
Yeah.
So that was quite an achievement.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
And it's lovely at the top. I know a lot of people. I mean, Cat Bells, for people that don't know, it's kind of like, it's almost like the first sort of fell that most people walk, isn't it? It's overlooking Derwent Water in Keswick, and you've got, on a clear day, you've got such a beautiful view from the top of there. I don't know what the weather was like when you were.
Oh, it was stunning.
Was it?
Yeah.
But I think you can almost see the sea, can't you, from the top of there if you look out west.
I don't know, I was looking through tears because tears of joy.
But it's just stunning because it's not really that high, but the view you get from the top of it is incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
It was just fantastic.
Really nice.
It was
like you say,
wonderful.
For your first achievement.
Yeah.
But you're a perfect example of somebody that's lived around here all their life. You know, that was literally right down the road from you.
Didn't appreciate it.
You don't, did you?
No.
And it's like me, because obviously an outsider coming in.
Yeah.
When I was a tourist here, it was like a dream to live here, and now I do. So, like today, for instance, I walked up a lovely fell called High Pike, which is in sort of Ambleside kind of way, and stunning. It was like, but so many people I know even now that have lived here all their lives, and they still haven't walked up.
Exactly. We always had our Sunday walk. You know, you'd have your Sunday roast, and then we'd go out for a walk. So my grandmother always got me out. And that was amazing. But I think my memories are how much further. I was one of them. I was like, I don't want to walk anymore.
It's kind of always been there, and everybody says the same thing, and I kind of get it because it's always there. You've never not known the fells just there. So, and it's just one of them things that you wouldn't necessarily. And I suppose unless you're that way inclined and you wanted to climb them at a young age, then why would you? You'd much rather do
absolutely.
what kids would do at that age, isn't it? Rather
we'd go to the lake a lot.
And
walk around the lake and stuff and go off and have picnics at Keswick and stuff like that. But I didn't appreciate it until I came back from Paris. I can remember just coming sort of, you know, the bend just before you get to T-Bay. And all of a sudden it opens up, doesn't it? And it's like, wow. Wow. And I thought, how green. And it was that realisation of just how beautiful the area is.
It is, isn't it? That greenness, it's kind of like, you know, when you go to the Med and you've spent, I don't know, 2 weeks in Greece or Turkey or somewhere like that, and it's lovely and it's warm and everything else, but it's so kind of dry and almost barren, isn't it? You know, and then you come back home and then you, like you say, you're driving up the M6 and it's kind of getting greener and greener and greener, and like you get to that exact place you've just said, and it's just like, this beautiful vista just opens up. It's absolutely incredible. Incredible
it is. It's beautiful. So yeah, barefoot shoes. Definitely recommend them. They're brilliant. I think Vivo Foot it's not a British firm, but they're quite a popular one that I know a lot of people that have.
I'm gonna have to. What I'll do, I'll check them out, Google them, and then I'll put a link on this for people to have a look at and get them some work, because I think they're just kind of starting out. They're kind of like a new startup kind of business.
Oh well, it'll be good to support them.
They seem good. Really good. But like you say, it's something I'm definitely going to invest in, because the difference when you wear different footwear, you know, if you can go barefoot. There's a guy actually who used to be barefoot all the time in town. He used to live in Ambleside kind of way. He had a bit of a had a couple of yurts, and he was on a television programme. What was it on? It was either that First Dates or Come Dine With Me or something like that.
No idea.
Bald-headed fella, and he used to come for spuds in town. He used to come to Penrith for a massage. But anyway, he was always barefoot. But he's like we used to be as a species.
Yeah.
Thousands of years ago, and his feet must have been like leather underneath.
But even as kids, we were. Well, I can remember I was always in barefoot.
Yeah, you were, weren't you?
Just being on, especially around the lake as well, and it's all pebbles and rocks. Didn't faze you whatsoever.
No.
Hurts like hell now if I walk. I know. Yeah, getting in the lake is a challenge. But yeah, that was one of the things through reflexology and doing it on each other every week. Our feet change shape.
What, physically?
Yeah, because it opens it up. So,
So
you're opening the... Well, more sort of around the toe area. So if you imagine that you're squashed in toes all the time. Yeah. So with doing reflexology, it was like opening the toes up, spreading out.
So they're in their more natural state.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something you wouldn't have thought of, isn't it?
I know. I kept thinking, well, why are my shoes so tight?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they've changed shape.
But I think that's it as well, because of where we live in the kind of northern sort of hemisphere. The climate isn't great for our sort of bare feet walking and bare feet existing.
No, not really. No.
But I mean, it would have. But I mean, how many hundreds or thousands of years have we started to wear? I'd imagine when people migrated further north, they started to wrap things around their feet, didn't they?
Well, yeah, you had the Romans had the leather sandals and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah. And I'd imagine even before that, the sort of early settlers that moved up from the sort of Med, which makes you wonder, why would they have moved up?
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Running away.
Exactly. So you can see that they'll have gone from sort of barefoot to putting something on the feet purely for, I don't know, practical reasons.
Yeah.
And that's just evolved over the centuries into.
And now it's
shoes,
fashion, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I do love shoes and I do love boots.
I do. There's me both going smacking on about being bare feet. But you want to go, and I've got more shoes than Lynn. I've just bought a new pair of Docs and it's like...
Have you? Yeah, I wore my Docs the other night.
They're so comfortable though.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, you are literally walking on air, obviously, but
you
do feel it. I didn't appreciate it, I don't think, when I was younger, when I was a kid and you had Docs, because it was just literally that fashion statement, wasn't it? Yeah. But I think now it's kind of, these are so bloody comfortable, and it was like almost instant, from the word go. And I think they've got a wider fitting now as well. I
always wore Doc shoes actually when I was in San Francisco.
Did you?
Yeah, I was definitely goth, I would say. When I look back, big baggy, covered myself up. I mean, I was skinny with a six-pack. I'm like, why did I cover that up? I've got one photograph to prove that I had a six-pack. I'm like, God damn it. That self-image thing is a killer, isn't it?
It is.
But yeah, and then I was really blessed with my dad and his wife buying me the most amazing pair of Doc boots last year for my 50th.
Did you?
And they're just, I love them. So I was up at the Upfront Gallery on Friday night.
What was on?
It was dub and bass.
Oh, was it?
Dub and grub, yeah, so it was really good.
The bands as well?
Irish and Dubbers.
Were they?
Worth listening to.
Were they? I'll give them a check.
I think it was Irish and Dubbers. Alright, Irish and Stubbers.
They have a lot of different stuff there, don't they?
Yeah.
It's really good.
But I noticed a few people kind of bumped into me and stood on my feet, and I'm like, got my Docs on, it's fine. Off you pop. But yeah, so shoes and boots are definitely a passion.
Yeah.
But barefoot is definitely best.
I mean, it is lovely when you're on holidays, isn't it? And it's like you're on a beach and it's barefoot, and it's just, and even like we said earlier, just walking on your garden in the grass or in the park.
It's great.
It's awesome, isn't it? Because you do have that connection to the earth.
With grounding.
that we've lost as a species, haven't we? You know, massively. But it's just that there's something. If anyone's not done it, I could recommend just taking your shoes off, even if you haven't got a garden. Just go into the park, just take your shoes off and just walk around. It'll change. Just changes your whole mental attitude.
There's quite a lot written about it as well. There's research to sort of show how good it is, and it's about grounding and earthing. And it calms the nervous system down. And there's loads about the electromagnetic field of the earth how it changes.
So did you learn a lot of that with the reflexology or not?
We did, because as I say, I was lucky that we had this tutor that was out of the box, which suits me fine because I've never fit in a box. So we learned a lot of that stuff then, and then obviously I'm just interested. So you go down rabbit holes. You're meant to be studying that, and you're like, oh, but that looks far more interesting. I'll go down that one and see what that's all about. And then as time goes on, because you've got to do continued professional development, so it's just seeing what's out there, what captures your interest, and reading about it.
Right.
And it's a lot more open now.
It is, isn't it? I mean, back then, well, even before, back when you were doing it, it was very much like, oh, new age, hippie, rubbish, wasn't it?
And it was very much called alternative. Whereas, you know, I emphasise the complementary. It's complementary to whatever else you're doing.
And I think nowadays as well, a lot of the stuff that I'm listening to and reading about is the stuff that was classed as complementary or alternative then is now becoming mainstream. There's a lot more, because I think as a younger generation of more open-minded sort of medical professionals are coming through, they're listening and learning about this, what would be classed as alternative therapies, seeing the benefit of it, and including it in their sort of day-to-day practices.
Well, it's tough. It's really tough. We've constantly got to prove ourselves. So even the fact that I've got Bachelor of Science, it doesn't mean anything, because I'm just a reflexologist, even though I'm a clinical reflexologist. You get some GPs that are all for it. Lots of nurses are, loads of nurses, and then quite a lot of consultants are open to it, particularly in the cancer field.
Are they?
Yeah. So there's one person that is available through Carlisle Hospital that does cancer care and offers complementary therapies. And then the Christie's is absolutely brilliant. They've got a really good complementary therapy centre there.
Which it should be as well, because it should be for the patient. The patient should have every available, what's the word, sort of thing's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. Every available
option.
Every available option to them, so they can make a sort of semi-educated choice with everything that's presented to them, and so they can say, well, if you do this, but then if you also do this might work. And then
I think it's more what I've heard and I believe is some of them think it's not going to do any harm, so why not? They don't see it as being of benefit. They just see that it's not going to do any harm.
Almost humour,
But that's fine.
Well, it is. But if it works, I mean, there's that classic placebo effect, isn't there?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So
why not?
If it is acting as just a placebo, and it's helping that patient, carry on.
Yeah, because a lot of it, you know, you could say, well, anyone's going to benefit from laying down for an hour. Yeah, of course they are. Anyone's going to benefit from someone listening to them for 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah, absolutely. But whatever calms the nervous system down for the body to then have its innate healing kick in, why the hell not?
Exactly.
Just do it.
Exactly.
And that's, so when I was at uni, that's the biggest thing was coming off the meds first, and then figuring out a way to help myself. And I found a place called Spirits of Eden, which was up at Plumpton, and that was a therapy centre, and that was where the flotation tank, that's my first introduction to that. And I met amazing people there who well, there was Nick Potts, and she introduced me to Reiki.
Yeah.
And she was similar. She'd had similar things happen to her that happened to me.
So what's Reiki? That's with the head.
That's the energy healing. Yeah. So it's universal life force.
Yeah.
And it's
See,
basically
that's been proven to be true as well. But still.
Yeah.
People will just dismiss it as mumbo
It's
jumbo.
quantum physics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has now been proven categorically to be fact. You know, there's no dismissing the fact that quantum physics is the thing.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, if you listen to this and you like it or not, it's a thing.
The best thing to watch, and I think you can watch it for free on YouTube, is What the Bleep Do We Know? Down the Rabbit Hole.
Right.
And it's proving quantum physics and energy and that exchange.
Yeah. You see, I listened to a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes, he's amazing.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
He's a classically trained what he classes as an old school kind of classically trained doctor, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know? So he's got all them proper qualifications, so to speak. But he understands the quantum world and he knows the reality of it. And even though he's got that credibility of being a neuroscientist, even he still gets dismissed as a quack almost, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's bizarre.
Yeah.
But then when you put into practice the things that he talks about,
it works.
Your whole world changes.
Yeah.
It doesn't just, it's... And I think the more people that can grasp that and get into it, and if somebody's listening to this now, if all we've done tonight is make someone go and watch a Dr. Joe Dispenza video, then spot on, because
absolutely.
it is going to change your life.
Yeah.
100% it will.
Yeah.
And because I sort of say to people, my daughter's at the moment, she's at uni, she's stressing out like mad. So I'm totally positive, and I keep sending her messages, probably believe in yourself, all this stuff. And the last time she was here at Easter, she said, I can't do it, I can't. I says, you can. I can't, it's really bad. I says, just humour me. Just pretend that you can.
Yeah.
Just humour me. Just don't, whether you believe it or not. And she's getting through, and it does, all you've got to do is change that mindset. Yeah. Because it all starts in here, really.
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
And it's kind of like, but it's something that it's something I found out purely by accident.
Right.
Or was it by accident? You know what I mean?
The universe?
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to... I mean, this is about Christmas.
No, go on, it's interesting.
So it was like... It was about 2 Christmases ago.
Yeah.
And Christmas is usually the time that you can kind of sit around and be a slob, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you kind of... There's always something to do, but at Christmas it's like, I can sit about... Nothing needs to really be done. So I was sitting there, I was just mindlessly watching crap on telly, and I'd watch this thing, I don't know, something like Ancient Aliens or something like that, right, on Netflix. And I was sitting there, and it was the next thing, and I was that slobby and lazy, I couldn't be bothered to even switch it over. So this next thing come on, and it was going on about, I can't even think of the words now, I use it all the time. When you're, affirmations and
just the positive thinking.
Positive thinking,
manifesting,
yeah. And it was all about this, and there was all these different people coming on, and it just hooked me. I was like, oh. And then I started, and I kind of didn't know what, because it had kind of started and I didn't see the beginning of it, but then something clicked and I started watching it properly, and then it finished. I was like, oh, that was good. So it made me then want to learn more about what they were talking about. And it turns out that the film that I'd watched was the film called The Secret.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I didn't even know that I had. So I was watching all these YouTube videos and reading all these articles, and everyone was going on about The Secret. I was thinking, I'm going to have to watch this.
Yeah.
Turns out I'd already watched it without me even realising what I'd watched. But then it just changes your whole mindset as a person, doesn't it? So your whole outlook on life it just changes, only slowly at first, because it's difficult to, because for me, so I had sort of 55 years worth of,
well, it's programming, isn't it?
Basically.
Yeah.
It's like Joe Dispenza says, from the ages 0 to 7, that's from a 7 onwards, that's what that person's going to be like, because they've been programmed. Because there's another guy that I listen to, and he is another American guy. They're all American. Maybe I should start an English guy. Start one. But there's and he kind of equates it to that when you used to buy a computer, it was an empty thing, and so you bring it over from the shop and you plug it in and you switch it on and you go boom, but there'd be nothing in it because there'd be no programs in it. So
right.
You'd have to then get AOL put into it, and you'd have to put like Windows into it and all the rest of it. So then the computer would do something. And he says, and that's the same as our brains. So you're born, there's nothing in it, but then you're being programmed all the time by your parents, your peers, your teachers, your environment that you live in, the culture that you live in. Yeah. Everything around you is being absorbed. And when you're learning this, and then you observe children kind of in the wild, so to speak, and you're watching them, it's kind of like, that is so true. You know, because I look at you see certain kids and they're like skipping and happy and loving life, and it's just that innocence and that because their classic is that theta waves, don't they, that are in that theta state where their brain is just in that sort of sponge mode, isn't it? And it's just kind of like a sort of semi-hypnotic state, and they're just taking everything in. And then you see other kids and they're sort of just not, they're almost sad, you know, and you just feel that they're not, and it's obviously the two different environments, you know. Then they're not skipping around, because some kids you see and they're skipping constantly and constantly on the go, and they're absolutely loving life, and then others are just like really down. And
I realised that when I was training back when I was like 16, 17, and working in nurseries, and the different kids that came in, and the ones that clearly needed hugs.
Yes.
I mean, you're not allowed to do that nowadays, but I spent most of my time just hugging and giving security to some of them. And it's heartbreaking, because it's like, how can you get two that are so different? But it is environment. A lot of it is environment.
It is massively. It is. But then you can see how, so then you've got that program built in, and so then you just go through your life there.
Yeah.
And another analogy that he put it to was like, so we're saying, well, you're talking out your arse. It's like, that's a load of rubbish. And he says, no. He says, when you learn to drive, he says that, because he goes on about the conscious and the subconscious.
Yeah.
He says, so the conscious is the world that we're living in now. It's conscious. We can see there's a camera there, you're there, there's a sign there, there's lights on, that's conscious. He says, but your subconscious world is the world that is taking things in without you realising it. He said, so when you started to drive, you were learning to drive, and you were putting your foot on the clutch, you were putting it into gear, you mirror signal manoeuvre, you were doing everything else. He said, and eventually, because through repetition, you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it. He says, when you get in a car now, you don't consciously go, right, I must put my foot on the clutch, and I must put my foot, you know, put it into gear, and I must turn the steering wheel to the left, and I must look behind me. He says, you just do it, because subconsciously, your subconscious has programmed itself to do that. He says, so if you can do that at 17, 18, 19, 20, then you can achieve and reprogram your mind to do it at any age. He says, all you've got to do is consciously just be aware, and they call it mindfulness, don't they? Just be mindful of, and that's what I started doing. So I was like, well, so I was mindful of how I spoke to people, was mindful of my response in here that a lot of people wouldn't have known about, and you just become more and more sort of like mindful and more kind of loving and respectful of everybody and everything. And then before you know it, that becomes second nature, and then there's no going back. I could not in a million years now go back to the person, not that I ever was a horrible person, but I couldn't go back to what I was.
But I think it's conscious thought about who you want to be as a person, rather than just flippantly going along in life as like, well, this is me and that's that. It's like, no, we get to a point where we want to work on ourselves, and that's great, isn't it? That's what's nice about aging.
But it is. But as well, I think if I'd have learnt that when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't had a good life anyway, but I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd have been more mindful and more receptive to things back then. But I think as well, looking back, function, it's probably a bit extreme to say that, but it's such a massive part of my life. The first thing I'll do is put music on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it doesn't really matter. I've got such an eclectic taste as well, so it's just like I won't necessarily, even though I suppose my default is my kind of rock metal-y type stuff, but nevertheless it's still, I'll equally listen to dance, drum, bass, classical, jazz, everything in between, bluegrass, everything and anything, anything that just makes you feel
well, I think I was lucky. My dad is massively into music,
well.
So growing up I was around music. I mean, he had loads of albums, and it was, I think he took me to a Bruce Springsteen concert, like Tunnel of Love. That was incredible. And then Dark Side of the Moon, obviously, you've got some real classics, and Meatloaf, and so he introduced me to a lot of different types of music when I was growing up anyway. And then moving to America, that was a completely different scene. And when I moved back here, like, I didn't know who Take That were. Everyone kept going on about this Take That, and I'm like, what?
It just shows, doesn't it, that massive difference across the Atlantic. Because they say if you can make it in America, you can make it. But you can. They obviously, I don't know if they ever did make it there.
Well, before I came back, I was in Paris. I saw Janet Jackson live when I was there, and that was definitely. Do you know, I can't really remember much about the music when I was there. I think I spent a lot of money on pictures of frozen margaritas. But it was pretty dancey. It was more like dance music than anything else, apart from seeing that. And then going to the cinema loads there as well. It was great. You could go and see like 2 or 3 films in a weekend.
So what would they dub it then, or was it being subtitled?
Some were dubbed and some were subtitles. And quite often, if it was in English and subtitled in French, there'd be me and my friend absolutely laughing up a storm, and no one else would be laughing because it's like not translated in there into French for them. It was like, they're going to get kicked out if we don't shut up.
That's brilliant.
But that was good, But so that, I totally agree. The conscious and subconscious manifesting really, really does work.
It does. And people will say, oh, stupid little hippies, what they're on about. It's like, just humorous. Give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's nothing. It. What have you got to lose? And I think you used a key word as well, response, because most of us react. And it's that quick reaction, isn't it? And it's like the first thing that pops in our heads, we'll say it or do it. Whereas if you pause and then respond, and then it's that conscious response gets you further.
It does, and people will be amazed if they'll just try it. And I promise you, it will change your life. And it's not sort of mumbo jumbo. I think in 20, 30 years time, it will become the norm.
I hope so.
I think it will, because and I know there's been movements in the past that have tried to kind of the Enlightenment movement. I think was that the 1920s, or I think between the 2 world wars, I think they tried to kind of create like a new, because it's been going. I mean, there's Neville Goddard. He was. They always seem to be in America for some reason. I don't know why. So anyway, this guy called Neville Goddard, he was kind of like one of the pioneers, one of the fathers of this sort of Enlightenment movement that started in the 20s.
Right, I'm not familiar with that. No.
Well, he's a lot of his books are the keys, something like the 20 Keys to Success.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them are sort of like businessy based type, but they carry over into that sort of generalised mindfulness manifestation and that sort of thing. He's quite good, and even though it was written and sort of spoken about, I think it was the 20s up to the 1950s, but nevertheless it still works because it's not it sort of surpasses generations, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because
you
go, I mean, I've delved right deep in with it. I've gone right back because it goes back eons, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
When
and philosophers.
Yes, exactly. You look at Plato.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that I really like called. I've just forgotten his name. That's just the way I speak. He wrote the I Ching. Lao Tzu.
Yeah, I've got that book.
Have you?
Yeah.
And his philosophies. So he was around. For people that don't know, he was around 500 years before Christ was born. So he's even older than Christianity. And some of the things he was saying and doing still resonate. You could learn it now, and it would still work now. Like each journey, a journey of 1,000 miles, starts with one footstep, and that's so true. And I said that to my daughter: just do one step at a time. Someone wants to climb Everest, they just do it one step at a time, and it's just literally is that. Life isn't a sprint; it's a marathon, isn't it? And I know we're coming out with so many kind of cliches and kind of listen to these two old hippies just chatting away, but it's so. I think enlightened's probably a bit stronger word, but if you do become enlightened, so to speak,
I think awakened's
a better term.
Yeah.
Then you'd see the world in a completely different way
than
you did.
Well, that's so with the Reiki, you notice things that you didn't necessarily notice before. With mindfulness, when you do sort of true mindfulness practice. I've been on quite a few courses. All of a sudden, taste is more heightened. Smells are heightened, and then you go out and you think, the sun's not shining, but everything seems brighter. And it's like all the neurons have just switched on. It's amazing.
Because I remember years and years and years ago there was I think it was something I read. So this is even pre-internet days. It could have even gone back to the 80s. This was, and it was. They said that the human race a human being is only using like 10% of the brain function or something like that. And it's kind of like, and then Joe Dispenza goes on about. So fast forward and then another 40 years, and then you start to get into Joe Dispenza. You think, so 40 years ago they were on about that, and then he goes on about rewiring your brain, and he's got actual proof that when you sort of meditate or sort of sit and become mindful, then neurons sort of grow in your brain, and they've got actual physical proof of this happening, and then that creates other neurons and something. If you repeat something, I think it is for half a dozen times, that then becomes neuronic path, if that's a word, within your brain that then stays there, and then that can create other things. And it's just like so many things that were, I don't know, that were kind of like talked about back then that are now becoming physically proven. So you imagine in another 4 years, and even though technology is moving so much faster than it was then, probably even quicker still, 20 years, it might be the fact that everybody's, mindfulness might be taught at school or something,
It is in some places.
Is it?
Because
it's not a bad thing.
No, it
and the world
just
would be
do
such a far
it
better
would.
place.
It would be so good. And then if those kids were going home and doing it with the parents, it would be amazing. The ripple effect.
It would. Because that's another aspect of it, isn't it? Is I reckon if we all kind of thought together as a collective, then that would have a massive. Because if, say, for me and you are just really positively, mindfully thinking now, then that's shooting our sort of energy off in a really good direction. But then they said if you've got a whole town doing it, then the whole country, and then the physical aspect of it would be just incredible for mankind as a whole.
There's groups, so Reiki practitioners get together and do Reiki shares. And then generally it's that thing of, well, you're helping each other to raise each other's vibration, but then you're sending that out there as well for the good of all. So the more that we can get together and do that, the better. It's like, while the government's trying to get us to use only 2% of our brain,
dumb us down.
Absolutely, completely, then hopefully the cream will rise to the top and overtake.
Well, that's what when we were talking about earlier, because it was on about Reiki, and that there's pictures, they take pictures now of me or you in here and our auras. They're there physically to see on a photograph. And then they've done also other experiments with your magnetic field. I think it's like, it can spread to up to 10 metres.
I'm not quite
meters,
up on that, but it is
kind of like there's a massive magnetic field around each one of us. Because we're all basically just balls of energy. When you
well, I try and explain it to people, because I quite often get looked at like I've just fallen out of the sky. But the way to explain it is, if you're looking for a house and you walk into a house and it feels right, that's energy. Or you walk into a shop or go anywhere, or spend time with someone and you feel like lighter after you spent time, or happier. And then you can spend time with some people and you feel like you just had everything sucked out of you. Energy vampires, they exist.
They do.
And that's all energy. And it's that exchange as well. It's like, you can be in the company of great people and just be buzzing for days. And that's all it is. It's that energy.
And it's, in another aspect, it's been proven that they proved this with, there was a load of women that worked together, and they'd worked together, didn't know each other at all. I think there was half a dozen of them, and they'd worked together and I think it wasn't necessarily done as an experiment, but I think they did an experiment afterwards because of this. So all these women, they got together, and within 6 months, all of their menstrual cycles
sync together.
And it was kind of like, how? Why? You know what I mean? So that's that energy of
that does in households, like
does it?
Does it? That would happen with me and my daughters.
So if there's more women in the house, that would just be a thing. But that's that's a proven fact of energy working, isn't it? So
and the body being incredible.
And that's it as well, because getting back to your healing, as a species, we've healed quite happily for hundreds of thousands of years without, and I'm not dissing doctors, but
no, because I couldn't have lived, I wouldn't be here now without them.
No, because medical science has gone great and it's achieved great things, but prior to that, the body would heal itself. Like, I've just had this new knee, which is fantastic, awesome consultant, she was brilliant. So she did the sort of mechanics of it, so to speak. Chop the old knee off, put the new knee in, sew me back up. But it's the body that does the healing. It was the body that kind of, so everything inside
and the mind
is gelled. The
power of the mind.
You see, now when I had that knee done, it's great, don't get me wrong, and it kind of healed all right. But because I was in this far more conscious frame of mind after with having this done, the healing process just was boom. So much quicker. Because you kind of refuse. You just keep telling yourself you're well, you're fit. And your body just believes it.
Absolutely.
I'm lucky. So I don't like calling myself an age. I like calling myself a level. So I'm at level 56. It just sounds cooler, doesn't it?
It does. It's better.
So I'm at level 56, and I'm on no meds at all. I'm on. Tell a lie, I'm on omeprazole. But that was because I was born with an hiatus hernia. So that means that your non-return flap at the bottom of your gullet, mine doesn't return, so mine's always open. So that means all the stomach acid always comes back.
So you can change that.
And I have tried, and I was doing really, really well, right? And I was coming off. I was like, so I went like a day, and then I was doing, because I used to take one every day. Just as a maintenance dose. And then last year, as an experiment on myself, I thought, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come off this. Not that it was causing me any. It was just literally, I was just experimenting on myself, and it was. So I dropped it to every other day, and then I got it down to almost a week without having one, Then I went on holiday.
And had a good time.
And then I've never been able to kind of get it back.
Yeah.
But I think as well, because I know that it's worked with my knee, I know that probably, because I'm not that bothered about taking it, and it's not got any crazy side effects, that I'm probably not that fussed. I'm not that committed to.
Yeah.
If it was something like when you were on cocodamol, then different kettle of fish. And I think that was it with the pain. You see, they gave me liquid morphine and all the usual sort of stuff, and I never took it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really want to, and I don't mind a bit of pain, but it was when you're doing your exercises. If I was masking all the pain, how the hell would I know
exactly
how well or how badly I was doing?
Or if you were moving in the wrong direction slightly, because pain's there as a warning.
Yeah, exactly.
It's trying to tell us something. So if you're masking the pain, which is what I was doing, and I was carrying on working, and I was lifting stuff, and I was stupidly move furniture around in the house, because I would, randomly let's try the sofa over there. And crazy stuff. And I don't know if I did myself more damage, but hey ho.
Well, you're here now.
Yeah, exactly.
You walked into the caravan.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, not on any meds whatsoever now.
Brilliant.
I completely lost the use of my legs in it was 6 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah. So I go through. Well, I've learnt how to pace. I always hated that word, pacing, because if I've got energy, I want to use it, and I want to be productive. And I suppose it's relevant to go back to when I did the degree. I didn't intend on running a business at the end of it.
Right.
But when I met the people at Plumpton, so Nick introduced me to Reiki, and she massively helped me through her Reiki treatments and her massage, because she understood my body. She understood what it felt like, and she had the knowledge as well. And then David and Sue, who owned the centre, to cut a long story short, they retired.
Right.
And someone else had it for a while. Nick had already left at that point. Other people had already left. And then that person, it didn't work out for them. So David and Sue had moved to Malta. And then rang me up and said, do you want the centre? I was like, excuse me.
This was at Plumpton then?
Yeah. And I said, how long have I got to decide? And they went, the weekend. I was like, oh wow. And we lived in Melkinthorpe then, and I was driving back from I don't know where, and just going past the ice cream farm down to Melkinthorpe, there was an owl on the gates, middle of the day. There's an owl, and I'm like, thank you, it's a yes. So took that on, changed the branding, changed the name to Calico Health and Wellbeing Centre, and then shit myself, because I'm like, what have I done? But I always said to myself that I wanted to be a good example for my kids. I wanted to prove to them that you don't give up. You just keep going. There's always a way. There's always a different path to go down. You've got to fight. I'm stubborn. I'd like to say tenacious rather than stubborn, but I do get called stubborn. And it was that thing of, what have I got to lose by trying? So then I spent like a good 2 or 3 weeks where I was like, oh, what if it doesn't work? How am I going to get clients? All of this. And then sat down. I totally have guardian angels, believe in my angels and work with angels, and just said, right, if this is meant to happen, is this meant for me? Please show me the way forward. And I never advertised from then on.
Wow.
I didn't need to. I worked silly hours because I didn't have a structure. But that was when I had to learn everything about floating and the flotation tank as well, because I thought, I've got to like the damn thing now. I've got to get in it and use it and then learn how to like it. And I absolutely love it now. So that took me down a different rabbit hole, because I needed to research everything about that. So while I was at Plumpton, I was working silly hours, and just kept going. My back was getting stiffer, and I can remember sort of sat with a client being completely rigid in the chair, thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get up. And then I said, I'm really sorry, but my back's aching. Are you okay to let yourself out? I kind of had to move really carefully, and I thought, right, I just need to go to bed. And I thought, good night's sleep, I'll be all right. Went to work the next day, bent down to unbolt the front door, straight on the floor. And then got taken to Newcastle, I think, at that time, up to Carlisle, then to Newcastle, and then sent back home with drugs again, because I'd weaned off everything at that point anyway. 2-3 days on tramadol, and I don't know what else they gave me, something else. And I thought, well, I need to get back to work. So went back to work, started to wean back off the drugs, and then about 2 weeks later, same thing happened again, but it was full prolapse. It was L5S1 right at the base. I've lost the use of my legs completely.
How scary was that?
It was crazy, and I before that point, I was really bad. I was using crutches, but I'd promised, you know, Annabelle Candler. I'd promised I would do a talk and have my now business partner Keris do a talk for one of her networking events. So I still went. And Keris was using me to demonstrate chiropractic and what she did. And she laid me down because I was like, she'll sort me out, it'll be fine. I eventually got down, and she leant down and she went, what are you doing? And I went, just fix me. And she's like, I can't believe it. So she did my neck, and I thought, shit, she's not even touching my lower back. It must be bad. And I'd gone home, got into bed eventually. I mean, I don't know how I did it. It was
she drove
just
in that state as well?
No, Annabelle took me home. I was in a hell of a state. I could barely walk, and it was that night that I tried to get out of bed, and then got stuck. So I fell to the floor, and my head got stuck between the bedside cabinet and the bed, and that's where I was. And my husband phoned an ambulance, obviously, but I was like, I'm naked, cover me up. And he chucked the quilt over me, and I was like, because it went into spasm then. No. So I'm like, just something light. I thought, what a position to be in. I mean, it's not a good look.
No, when I was in the fire service, there was a few people stuck in baths.
Yes,
and it was kind of like...
it's the worst. It's a nightmare.
So if you only had 2 paramedics, you didn't have 6 firemen coming in looking at you then?
No, I didn't. But they had to wait and get a third because I had to have an injection, and they weren't allowed to inject me. They couldn't move me. Because every slight movement with the spasms it was excruciating.
Is it 10 out of 10 pain?
Oh, it was off the scale. Off the scale. Hard. I mean, I could give birth any day compared to that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just on another level, and I thought, I've done it this time. I really thought I'd done it. Because the consultant that I saw that I ignored, he pretty much said, if you don't do what I'm advising, you'll be in a wheelchair by the age of 40. Well, that's where my stubbornness comes in. I thought, just watch me. Just watch me, I'll find another way. And I did, until then. So that's where I thought, oh man, I've pushed my luck this time. So up to Carlisle, straight across to Newcastle, because they thought my spinal cord was trapped. So it was that thing of, I could potentially have been paralysed from the waist down.
Sort of traction?
No, I was just flat on my back.
Just sort of morphined up?
Yeah, I don't know what, I was away with it. Definitely Oromorph, and then they put a drip in, and I was just being injected with whatever it was. And then I was in Newcastle for, I think, 2 or 3 days. When they did the scan, they could see that the spinal cord wasn't trapped, thank the Lord. But it was the disc had just come out.
Just popped out.
Yeah. So then I was taken back to Carlisle, and I was in there for 11 days, and then I discharged myself.
Did you?
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And every morning.
Was this you just taking over this business as well?
Yeah.
So it was like you've been thinking, shit.
Well, it was probably I'd maybe had it. When was that? That was 2012 when I took over the business. So I'd had it a few years.
Oh yeah.
And
but nevertheless, you'd have been thinking clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
My mum was on the phone telling everyone that I was unavailable, but I mean, Nick had come back, so she was there, and then there was another couple of therapists as well, so they like stepped in where they could, but it was safer to just close. It was crazy, and I just thought, what have I done? What have I done? What an idiot! Why didn't I pace myself?
You've been beating yourself up, like
massively beating myself up, and the physio. Well, do you know, it's so annoying, isn't it? You're there stuck on your back. The bed comes up, so at least I could get my knees up, so the pressure was off that area, and you're just manhandled in absolute agony. But then you've got the lovely nurses that say, "Would you like to sit in the chair today?" Yes, I would actually, but I can't. But I just wanted to get home because I thought that's where I'm going to heal. And the physio, luckily, the physio had a prolapse disc, so he understood.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he said, "I can see how stubborn you are, and you've got the attitude where you want to heal, and you don't want to be paralysed." But because I couldn't feel my legs, obviously I wasn't allowed to get up until I started feeling stuff again. And that took a while. And as soon as I could, I was like, get me on a Zimmer or just get me up. So then I was able to go to the physio suite, and they weren't going to let me go home until I could get up one step, because I was like, I live in a bungalow. So but when you arrived, we were told that the steps up to get into your bungalow, and I'm like, oh, God damn it. God damn it. And the power of the mind got up that step. And I was literally, I mean, it's so stupid. I was there and I had the physio on either side of me because they were so scared that I was just going to go down like a sack of spuds again. And I was there and I'm like, I am strong like a tree. And I'm like, it is the drugs. It is the drugs you've given me. And I'm like, my body is a tree trunk and I can get up this step. And I bloody did it. But it was a long recovery. It was hard work. But that's where Keris and I were already friends. We weren't business partners at that point. But when she found out what had happened, she started coming to the house and giving me really, really tiny baby baby treatments of chiro. She does McTimney chiropractic, so it's gentle and it's working on the nervous system. And without her help and support, I don't know where I'd be. But here I am, still walking. I've had blips. And I still get stuck.
So I'm guessing that disc now is weakened.
The whole of my spine is weakened. So going back to the hypermobility, that was one of the things that Keris was one of the first people that understood it. And she helped me explain. And of course, as soon as I was diagnosed with it when I was pregnant with my second daughter. But he said, there's nothing we can do because you're pregnant, you're just bendy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and giving birth was easy because my pelvis just separated. It was like, all right, that's fine. But I did have a lot of pain sort of before and after because of the pain in the pelvis, pubic symphysis disorder.
Are you going to get, are you heightened risk of osteoarthritis when you're older or not?
Yeah, I've got arthritis now.
Have you?
Yeah. But then you could scan 10 people and 9 would have arthritis. At our age, it's wear and tear. My 30s when they said that I had arthritis in my spine, my hips and my pelvis. So I'd been given different diagnoses, so I'd been given fibromyalgia as a diagnosis, IBS, God knows what else. There's loads of different things. Yeah.
One of them
try and put me in a box, and they're all wrong. So it's Ehlers-Danlos hypermobility type. Basically, it's a connective tissue disorder.
Right.
And it's collagen.
Right.
So it's defective collagen. So everything stretches, but it doesn't have the collagen to help it stretch back. Yeah. So where you've got erector spinae muscles to keep your spine stable, because everything the Ehlers-Danlos affects my internal organs as well. Right. They're constantly fighting to be stable. Right. So my spine's always kind of doing a little jig. Right. And because of the damage from the bottom of thoracic all the way down, it's all weak. So even things like me doing sit-ups, I tried stupidly back end of last year. I'm like, right, I'm feeling really good. I'm going to really go back into exercising. I'm going to do squats, going to do sit-ups, just go for it. Oh no, that was a week in bed, back on tramadol. So where people say, oh, well, you just need a strong core. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. It's not the same because some areas of my body are really tight and restricted because they're trying to stabilise the other parts. Sort of so where most people's quads move them around, my quads I've kind of changed it with the power of the mind and doing different exercises. Mine would try to stabilise my pelvis and my lower back. Yeah. So they would always go into spasm and lock. And I'd have to just thump them. And I couldn't go upstairs without excruciating pain. So I was like, there's got to be a way to stop this from happening. And from doing the walk a couple of years ago, that made me realise, okay, I can achieve things. You know, what we're told, you know, you're not well enough to do this, you're not fit enough to do that. Bullshit. It's like, no, I've always found a way, so I'm going to find a way now. Working with different people at the health barn, learning from them and the knowledge that they hold has massively helped just build strength. Losing weight, obviously that's a given, and then just doing little tiny exercises to build up strength. So it's about being regular with it, and then all the research. And I do take a lot of supplements, but the biggest thing is transdermal magnesium, and I learnt about that through the float tank. And we're all depleted of magnesium because you can't get it from food anymore because soil's depleted. And rubbing it onto the skin, you can make a little oil, rub it onto the skin. I do that twice a day, and that's helping your cells and your tissues, your muscles, absolutely everything. And it is a lifesaver. And with the fatigue as well, it massively helps with that. So if I forget to do it for a couple of weeks, or
because you just mentioned fatigue, then have you ever had a relapse then of your ME or not? Or...
I do have the chronic fatigue is a diagnosis that comes with it, but they think it's all to do with the Ehlers-Danlos, because your body's working. Sort of they think 10 times harder than the average body for every movement. Wow. So my spatial awareness is terrible. I just wobble about.
Should have seen her walking into the camera.
I know.
Should have filmed that.
I can walk a straight line after gym.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah, it is. But it's that whole thing of having hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got to move forward. Yeah.
Self-belief is critical, isn't it? If you don't believe in yourself, then how can you expect anybody else to? So you've just got to believe that you can do something.
Well, before it was my purpose was to help my clients and get back to work and be there for my kids. Whereas it's only the past 2 years where I am getting back to the person I used to be when I was travelling a lot, and that self-belief and really thinking, okay, we've got to turn inwards and practice what we preach. You know, quite often I've got clients going, you're looking a bit tired, Chris. Are you all right? And I'm like, that's not good when they're saying that.
Is it?
Maybe I need to practice.
But you're feeling. Sometimes people have said that to me, and they go, "You all right today?" I go, "Yeah," and I'm actually feeling
really good.
Top of the world.
Yeah.
In my life. And then you think to yourself, what can they say that I can't?
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and the opposite happens to me when people will say, "Oh my God, you're looking amazing at the moment," and I'm like, "Oh no, I feel like crap today." It's not a good day.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So yeah, I do have bad days,
Yeah.
but nowhere near like what I used to. Yeah. And now
with all this knowledge that now you've learned over the years as well, you can only move forward in a positive direction with it, can't you?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't think you'll ever get back to that chronic stage that you
it depends on how, because my adrenaline junkiness is coming back.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah, so because I turned 50 last year, and I had a 50 list, but I was full-time carer for my granddaughter, so I didn't get to do it, and that changed in October of last year. So it's like, right, this year's my year for doing stuff. So it's like skydiving.
Is it?
There's so much that I want to do. Get out and onto roller coasters again and even all of that.
In a year or just?
Yeah, in a year.
Oh right, this is all in a year you're doing this.
But I mean, we're almost in May now. I don't mind extending it to next year. And actually, my list keeps getting longer because I'm like, I'll see something or read something, and I'm like, right, I want to go there, I want to do that.
It's true, but that's what life's about, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Experiencing as much stuff as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having fun.
For living.
Exactly.
And just making the most of it. Yeah. You know, every day is truly a gift.
It is.
And I'll never forget when I was lying in that hospital bed thinking, this is it, I'm going to be in a wheelchair forever. You know, I've spent enough time in a wheelchair. And if eventually that's what has to happen, fair enough. I'm going to try my best right now to live the best life, but share that knowledge with other people, because there's so many people that
hopefully if there's someone listening to this now, and you're giving them hope, because you could have been in the last 10 years, you could have been in a wheelchair, been on disability.
I don't think I would have been here, to be honest with you, Tim.
Do you not?
No, because if I was on those meds in my 30s, where was I going to go from there? Morphine daily. Operations after operations, and that's where even, you know, they've mentioned operations to me again, because there's a fine line, isn't there, of me being stupid and saying no to corrective surgery, but the other side of it is, because of the hypermobility, then that's going to transfer somewhere else. So if they make one bit rigid, how's my body going to react to that?
That is happening all in, you even said yourself, it's even in your internal organs.
Yeah.
So if they're going to fix that one little bit, it's not going to stop the rest.
There's a knock-on effect,
isn't it?
You know, when you stub your toe, you can end up hurting something else because it's that transferred pain. Yeah. Or you've twisted the wrong way. It's, you know, we're connected from head to toe.
And that's what the good thing is about reflexology, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they don't probably understand that. Is it every single part of the body, or just every single part of the body has got a connection to the
absolutely
soles of your feet, isn't it?
It's
so where was it?
Well, it was hieroglyphics. There's back sort of in Egypt. There's images in hieroglyphics. So you're looking at 2,500 BC. Really.
Yeah.
And then
probably before that, because that's the only existing
imagery
and stuff we've got, haven't we?
Yeah.
It probably went way beyond that. Even it's bound to have, isn't it?
It must have. It must have.
Wouldn't have suddenly just appeared in the Egyptian times, would it?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. But that's what's recorded. Yeah.
So I'm guessing as well that it's become honed and become more of a.
There's lots of modalities. Yeah. So there's you've got there's so many different people that have had influence, you know, and a lot doctors, ear, nose and throat specialists, you know, they all thought there was something in this. There was a guy called Dr. Joseph who discovered that if you put pegs on the ends of your toes, it would anaesthetize the body. I mean, why would he even try putting pegs on the end of your toes? But that was in, like, I think the 1920s or 1930s, And then there's loads sort of going back into the 1800s of different doctors exploring it, So as I look at someone's feet, it is a complete map of the whole of your body. And then there's the different layers. So you're working systemically and emotionally and physically, so musculoskeletal.
I don't know, do you get a bit of a blurb before and you say, you know?
Well, legally we've got to do the consultation forms.
So you kind of have a gist of what they're going through, what the complaints might be. So they might suffer with, I don't know, IBS or something like that. So then, could you tell what was wrong with somebody without that consultation or not?
A lot of the time, yes.
Could you?
But we're not allowed to diagnose, so you've got to be really careful how you say things.
Right,
one of my best friends is the rebel reflexologist. And she just puts her hands on your feet. You need to have a chat to her. She's incredible. She puts her hands on your feet and you just don't know what she's going to come out with, but it's absolutely bob on every single time. Every single time. So you can. And I love it when particularly men, because they're like, oh, well, my wife bought me a gift voucher, so I thought I'd better use it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. When did you hurt your left elbow? They're like, what? How do you know that? Like, your feet are telling me.
Really?
Yeah.
It is that?
Yeah, it can be.
Wow.
Yeah, or I had a client who was born with just one kidney. And I'd done maybe 3 treatments and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to bring this up. And so on the 3rd session I said, is there something going on with your kidneys? Like, well, I maybe didn't say it quite like that, but he went, I was born with one. I was waiting to see if you could find out.
You're kidding?
And I was like, oh, thanks. There you go. There's your proof. So it is absolutely, it still blows my mind.
Massaging someone's foot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing.
But it's different techniques.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like thumb walking. So because you're doing like a pulse going along, and then there's different techniques. So when I'm doing that, I'm looking at the tone of the skin, the texture of the skin, the colour, how quickly it responds. There's so many different layers to it. It's not just like, because Keris will also say, oh, go for a foot massage, and I'm like, will you stop saying that? It's not just a foot massage. But it's really relaxing. There's
what is it, about half an hour?
45 minutes. It's meant to be 45 minutes. Since COVID, I'm much better at timekeeping because we had to be through lockdown and everything, because we were able to work through the second and from that, and people were crying out because obviously you've got that emotional support and the mental health stuff and particularly for the float tank as well. People needed it. They really needed it. So so it still blows my mind to this day, and I teach it as well. So I've just started with my new students and seeing already them going, oh my god, it's only been their 2nd lesson on Sunday, and they're starting to just get that passion already, and I love it.
And would you find that most of them are female? Now, isn't that strange, right? Because going back to what we were talking about earlier, of us being kind of different, I've always been not happier, but more myself with female company. Because I'm not a man's man. You know, I'm not not into cars, not into football.
Yeah.
I love motorbikes.
Yeah.
But I'm not a typical bloke who, football for cars. I'd much rather talk with a load of women about life and things rather than just going out with a load. And don't get me wrong, I've got a load of male friends and I quite happily go out and we have a good laugh and everything else. But push comes to shove. Sorry, guys. Push comes to shove. I'd much rather spend the night with a. I don't know what it is, because whether I'm more spiritually connected to women, because I think women are obviously more spiritually connected than men, way more. Is it? And I've always had that. So this thing that happened when I was watching The Secret, was that just a thing that made me suddenly realise this is what you've been doing all your life and you've never really realised it until
quite
now.
Possibly, yeah, quite possibly.
So
that's actually a book, and the book's much better than the film.
Is it?
The
Secret.
Yeah, because and then you can get like a guidebook as well, so you can use it a bit like a journal.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that is along those lines is the Celestine Prophecy.
Right.
Which is about manuscripts and someone's search for manuscripts and how there's no such thing as coincidence.
Yeah.
And they're just novels.
Yeah.
But that will, it's really, really good.
I'm reading a really good book at the moment she's an Auschwitz survivor, and she was a psychologist. I think I can't remember now. It's called The Choice, the book is.
Oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah, I did. I had to study her. I can't remember much about it.
Something. But she's like, it's just the power of positivity and her getting through things, and she kind of survives Auschwitz and then moves to America and then becomes this like top psychiatrist at the age of 50 or something.
She's incredible,
amazing. She's like called upon to do all these things, and she teaches a lot. She talks a lot about PTSD with a lot of servicemen. And it's just like I'd say I'm about 2/3 of the way through the book, and it's just like really, certain books that give you goosebumps, and it's one of those sorts of one of the things. But it's kind of like getting back to what I was saying about being more at home with women, and getting to the fact that I'd learn something like reflexology or something, but you'd be the only guy, and that wouldn't bother me in the slightest, being the only guy there. But it kind of almost backs up what I've been saying, that most men aren't really spiritually connected, are we?
Well, I don't know. I've got some
not.
great male friends, and God, we can have some really bizarre conversations, which is fantastic. And I guess when I was growing up, I had an affinity more with male company. I just felt more comfortable. But I think that's just because I was maybe more of a masculine type of character. I was a tomboy and wanted to be outdoors and adventurer. So I think it's as you go along in life, you find your tribe, don't you?
100%.
And it doesn't matter if it's male or female, because there's someone that slots into every part of your life and gives you what you need at that time, and then they might drop out of your life and someone else drops in.
And it's not always the case, because I discovered a guy that I'd known of him for years since I lived here, and we just suddenly started talking a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to mention his name, but what a profound moment it was, because he just dropped a little nugget about something,
right?
And it was something about like mindfulness or something like that, and I thought, so I just said something back, and it was like his eyes lit up, and he's just like a builder, a typical sort of guy that you wouldn't think. And I've just pigeonholed by loads of guys by saying they're all and he's into cars and he's into football, but he's got this incredible other side to him of like he knows all sorts, and with him, I don't know whether he practices what he preaches so much. I think he does, but with him it's more that quick thirst for knowledge, and that's what kind of he wants to learn more, and he goes down these sort of little rabbit holes and finds more stuff out, and we've had some amazingly, and only really short conversations because it's just at the stall. But it's just like now every time it comes, I'm really looking forward to it coming because
that's
it's like
brilliant.
you can kind of talk about stuff that people that are listening to this or watching this tonight will have never known I was into the sort of stuff that I've just been talking about. So it'll be an eye opener for them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like with him, it's like it's great to be able to talk to someone on the same wavelength.
Absolutely. I think men have a fear though, don't they?
Yeah.
Fear of judgment still, very much so.
It's still that macho
yeah,
thing.
yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly why a lot of men, because one of the previous guests, the episode yet to still go out, but he openly said he suffered from depression and went to get help and all the rest of it. And we were saying, a lot of men don't. They're just like, it's that sort of macho, no, there's nothing wrong with me, I'll just snap out of it type thing. And it's like, and like we said, we were talking about it, and we says that probably equally men and women do suffer from depression, but women are more happy to go and get help for it or and talk to their friends about it and deal with it, whereas men will just there's nothing wrong with me, and they'll just bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up until one day it kind of explodes and they either end up killing themselves or it's gone too far,
having a breakdown.
And it's kind of like,
I know many like that, and it's such a shame. We tried to set up a men's circle because I know so many that would benefit and they show interest, but there's that that is a massive step out of the comfort zone, isn't it?
And
for doing that.
I wonder if it's like a man thing. I know men my generation are still very much that macho. Not all of them. I'm just painting everyone with the same brush here, aren't I? But there's a lot more my age. I think a lot of the younger guys coming through are probably more receptive to. There's a lot more talk about mental health now than there was.
Yeah, there is. I think it's also about the provider.
Yes.
Our age group, it's the man was still seen as the provider, wasn't it? And then the dynamics changed.
The dynamics changed
and
completely.
Now it's like, no, you both have to work full time, so there isn't the classic housewife anymore.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of it's that.
Yeah.
But how do you reprogram?
Going back to that program, isn't it?
Absolutely. Society's ideals of what it should be.
Yeah. And that's still, even now, it's still such a big divisive thing. Certain things that you think we should have got over by now, like racism and homophobia and just general discrimination in general.
Yeah.
It's now seems to be even more at the forefront than it was 40 years ago when we were growing up.
I think it's keyboard warriors, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Because people are...
And they're like, and I know it's going to sound a bit conspiracy theory-ish, but they say that if you can get everybody fighting each other, then they forget about what they're doing. And I know it's everyone, look.
No, I'm with you on that one. We could do a whole other podcast on conspiracy theories.
But it's true.
It's so accurate, though.
I've taken I used to have news apps on my phone. I used to be constantly watching the news and everything. Since pretty much watching The Secret, I've took them all off. Yeah. Because it's all just horrible negativity. Yeah. It's division. They're just trying to get people fighting against each other. Yeah. For no real reason. And it's just like there's nothing positive out there at all. It's all there's everything's going up. There's going to be a reception. There's going to be this. There's going to be another war. There's going to be blood. So and so's killed so and so. And even like I was saying this to someone. I think I was chatting to Tony on one of the episodes, and I said when we were kids, even it'd be doom and gloom because it obviously always has been the news, hasn't it? But they'd always have like a little light-eyed story. But
the 10 o'clock news finished with a good story.
I don't think even that even happens anymore, does it?
I don't know. I really rarely watch TV, and I haven't watched the news for eons.
Yeah, because it's why?
Yeah.
Why would you? It's just so. It's designed to just bring your spirit down.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you're trying to go into the stratosphere with it, and then that's just Bring them down, bring them down. Like
I think we can have awareness, can't we? I mean, with the internet, we can look at what we want. So find out what's going on in Gaza and stuff like that. Yeah. Then we can look, and then we can pick and choose what we believe and what we don't believe. Exactly. And I think that's the difference with a lot of people as well. I have always questioned stuff. Yeah. And when you go to uni, that's what you have to do. Yes. You know, you're told to find journal articles and pick them to pieces. Yeah. Yeah. But then the minute you leave uni, you're not allowed to have an opinion. Do as you're told.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. But it's good to question stuff.
It is.
You know, and that's what science is.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how they come up with stuff, is by constantly questioning and analysing and then reforming it and changing
that's
it.
That's how we've got to this stage where we are in humanity, by questioning things, using our imagination, trying different things out. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd still be living in bloody caves. Yeah. Like trying to work out how to invent the wheel.
I know.
And how to light a fire.
I'd be all right if I was by a beach. It'd be grand.
Catch a few fish.
Yeah.
It's like that film Castaway.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is the whole world of knowledge out there.
There is.
And it's just brilliant.
It is, like, we're getting at this, where we are now at this stage in our lives. It's just like, because there was a great saying, some people die at 25, but they're not buried until they're 75.
Wow.
And it's like, well, that hit me. It was like, I know so many people like that. Yeah. Or I see so many people like that. You think that is so true. They've kind of got to the pinnacle of their life at 25 years old, say. Their mind is shut off. They're not open to any new ways of thinking, any ways of doing new things or experiencing anything new. And then in 50 years' time, they'll actually will die. Yeah. And it's like, what a waste of a life.
And that was what it was like for me moving back here.
I bet.
Because I didn't intend on staying. Yeah. I was going to come back, go to uni, and then I'll be off again. Yeah. And it was like walking back in time. It was the weirdest sensation. Yeah. And then judgment. It was like, oh, look, you know, who does she think she is? She's been away, blah, blah. And it's taken, you know, even when you take your kids to the school gates, there's that fear of you being judged, you're being looked at, what do you wear, you know, it's there's such a horrendous thing with small towns of gossip and everyone knows everything about you.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Massive,
it's
massive,
great.
Yeah.
In the way that it's friendly, everyone knows each other, but then you've just hit, it's that other side where the gossip mongers are out, and it's kind of like, you know, you've done one thing at, you know, you've farted at the end of town, shit your pants at the end. I know. By the time it gets to the other end of town.
Exactly. But I think that's where faith comes in, but also that conscious response to stuff, and recognising that, okay, as long as I'm being kind and true to myself, the right people will come into my life.
And they always do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They always do. And it's funny because I've watched over the years, I'm a great sort of, because I've spent pretty much the last 30 years on the street watching people and interacting with people. So I suppose that's been my degree in life. You know, I've got a master's PhD in people. So you kind of see... One of the very first things I noticed when I started the business was that each demographic sticks to its own. So, you know, you wouldn't get, and I'm not going to sort of, this isn't to denigrate anybody, but you wouldn't get like the local druggie hanging around with the...
My weekends usually were with him, and then he was black, so that brought a whole different life. Because we were hit with quite a lot of racism. Yeah, and then if people heard my accent and I was British as well, that was another part to it. So that was really weird, and it was the Hispanics that were the worst towards us.
Were they?
Yeah, it was the most bizarre thing, and because he was fluent in Spanish, he understood
what they were saying.
Yeah, so we'd quite often, it happened on 3 occasions that I can really remember. We'd go into a restaurant, sit down, and then I'd just be ready to order. I'd be like, right, great. And he'd be like, right, come on, we're going. I'm like, what? I want this, and I want this. And it's like, no, we're going. And he would never tell me what they said, but it was downright rude. Yeah. And then he just said, it's because you're English. It was like a couple of times. And I just thought, that's crazy, absolutely crazy. But you could tell by the way people looked at us. Yeah. And I mean, luckily we just got on with it, because most people were accepting. Yeah. But I had, lots of friends from different cultures and all over the place, because when you're going out a lot, I would just talk to anybody, and it was great.
But it's funny how other people wouldn't be like that, would they?
No.
They'd try and find the nearest English bar, or an Irish pub, or...
I think I went to an Irish pub once. I went to a gospel church where U2 filmed, and I was like, oh, why aren't they here now? But I thought, I'll go there. And other than that, it was just wherever I went. Yeah. It was great. That's nice. Yeah, it was fantastic. It really was. Best times.
You moved, when did the health barn
materialise? 5 years ago.
Did it?
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 5 years already. Yeah.
So it was literally just a barn before you moved in?
Yeah, there was Stuart's Pottery.
Right.
That was in one end of it. Yeah. But it wasn't a shop, so to speak. It had been a post office in the past, and it had been a toy shop. Yeah. But there was only one area. There was only one area that you would class as a room. Right. But I don't think it didn't have ceiling in it. Yeah. So it was just the floorboards and the beams to the upstairs. I had to, the place at Plumpton, they needed the building back. So as much as I bought the business and took the business on and bought the float tank and everything, they needed the building back. So I trying to find someone where I could rent space that understood that it's safe to have water and electrics in the same space, but it needed to be on a concrete floor preferably. I didn't have many places that were worth looking at, or people that would let me look at their places to rent. So I was renting a room in Reged, right, so that I could carry on with my reflexology clients. I had quite a few cancer clients there that I really didn't want to stop treating. And I could have gone mobile if need be, but then that's carrying all the equipment, which wouldn't have been good. So the float tank went into storage, and I pursued kind of trying to find somewhere, and that's where the manifestation came in for me, because it was very much of every night I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Show me the way forward. Or it started off with just show me a building, and then I would build on it, and then I would do my gratitude. So I always thank my body for getting me through the day, thank the people in my life, even thank my pillow. It's like just anything. The food that I've eaten, the roof over my head, all of that, and then doing the little manifestations. And I was about to quit, because I'm like, I've been looking for 18 months. Wow, I'd had a health blip. So just to add to the mix, I've had a TIA, a stroke.
Have you heard?
Yeah, and I had a spinal stroke.
Oh my God.
So the TIA was 2015. And I'm not quite sure when the spinal stroke was, but I think I've probably had two. And that's where I just collapse. Everything just goes, and I can't function at all. And it's where the blood supply is cut off to the spinal cord for whatever reason. So that's kind of, I'd had a blip, and I thought maybe this is my warning sign that it's time to give up and accept defeat and go down disability. And talking to Keris about it, she was like, look how hard you've worked, look what you've built up, something will come up, something has to come up. Meanwhile, she was working in Penrith, and Dave Stones, amazing massage guy, he was going to sell his building, so Keris was considering purchasing that. But the float tank, there was no way that would have fit in there. and we'd not really talked about working together at all. We'd just been supporting each other. What we'd found was that I would send clients to her and she would send them to me, and their recovery was just incredible, or their results that they were getting were incredible, because I was tending to work on an emotional level, and then she was doing very much the physical, still the emotional, but very much the physical through the chiropractic, the nervous system, the structure of the body and everything, and it was just incredible. And then I had, we both had Charles Lowther, and he's quite happy to say that he's a client, and I'm not breaching confidentiality. And I got ill and had to cancel 3 of his appointments in a row. So when I was then back at work, we've been friends for a long time, he wanted to know why, and I kind of briefly told him some things, and then he'd go back and he'd say to Keris, "What's going on? What's wrong with Chris? Why is this happening?" And I said, "It's because I'm not using the float tank. That was my stress relief. That taught me how to relax properly. The magnesium helping the body, but it's non-weight bearing on any part of your body, so it has to let go of the muscles that are tight. You know, it's so good for so many things." So then he wanted to know about that, and then he was like, "So what are you looking for? What are you wanting?" So I told him my dream, my ultimate dream, and Keris was aware of it as well. And then sort of a month later he went, "You know Stuart's leaving the pottery?" And I went, "Oh yeah, but it's a mess." "Yeah, but it's big." And I'm like, "Oh, but Charlie, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. There's no ceilings, it's cobbled floors. I don't know how that would work." And he went, "Just come and have a look at it." And there was still, Stuart hadn't moved out, so Stuart and Mara's stuff was all still there. God love them. They were just like in turmoil trying to pack everything up and sell stuff and get organised. And it was just that whole thing of, I've got to have vision. Got to have vision. And then Keris came, had a look, and then I think it was maybe a week or a couple of weeks later, and I went, "I've just got to do it." Like, no money whatsoever, no savings, nothing, just got to do it. And it was the fact that he was willing to support us to achieve our dream. And that's where we are now, and it's incredible. That's absolutely awesome. Incredible. And I mean, we opened sort of, I had to get out of Reg Ed, so at the back end of 2018 my end of the building was ready. So then there was dust sheets up. My clients were coming in past the dust sheets because reception hadn't been finished, and we weren't going to do upstairs at all. We were just going to run downstairs for a couple of years, you know, get ourselves on our feet, and then we'd try and develop upstairs or look at what we wanted to do up there. So we got reception finished, and Keris started, and then we had different therapists that joined us. And honestly, it's been the most incredible journey, even with COVID hitting. We, prior to that, spoke to Charlie, and he said, "Now you've done the extra room upstairs, why don't we just carry on and do the rest?" And we're like, "Oh, I don't know." And he's like, let's just see what happens. So he's been an amazing support. Really listened to our thoughts and ideas, and then had his own, because it's his building, our business. So we have invested a hell of a lot of money in it, but it's just a joy to be there, and a joy to work. Absolutely. And I always have anyway, because I'm so passionate about what I do. But just the people that work there as well, and that
because what other sort of therapies are there?
Oh God, there's loads. I thought you were going to ask me that. I'm like, right, I've got to remember everything.
We'll definitely put a link in.
Because there's a lot. But sports massage, sports therapist Alex, she's incredible. She does dry needling as well. And then we've got a woman's health physio. There's Pilates, there's yoga, there's aerial yoga, which is incredible. And then we've got the holistic and pamper side, so you can get just about any massage that's going, hot stones, or there's lots of Reiki. And then there's 2 chiropractics, so Keris, and then we've got Christine Hagen. She does craniosacral therapy as well. and then I do Chinese fire cupping as well as the reflexology is my main thing, and the float tank. And then I've got other things that I've learned over the years as well that complement it. So there's lots going on. There's loads going on. And then the upstairs studio has always got different workshops and classes going on as well.
So it's open pretty much 7 days a week, is it?
Yeah, we tend to say for downstairs it's open by appointment only.
Yeah.
Because none of us work full time.
Yeah.
Because you would just knacker yourself doing that. Yeah. So there's someone there generally every single day. Yeah. And then upstairs is run a bit like a village hall. People hire the space. Yeah. And then we will support them and help them advertise. So we'll share their social media and put them on the website and you know, get the name out there as much as possible as well. And it's lots of referrals. Yes. So if like, you know, when you come for your reflexology session, Tim, then if there's something and I think, oh, actually, going to see Alex for a sports massage would be better, or going to see Keris. Well, no, Keris has got a really long waiting list, but one of the other therapists, like Hayley, and what she offers, you know, it's that thing of we'll refer to each other if we think that someone else is better suited.
Which is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keep everybody kind of floating about.
Absolutely.
That sounds excellent.
And then we've still got plans to develop further.
Have you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch this space.
I know. Yeah. when we first looked and we thought, oh my God, this building's massive. What we're going to do? And I'm like, oh, what, another one twice the size.
I love it.
But it is. And then the teaching side of it as well for me is absolutely
do you teach
brilliant.
There as well at the health bar?
Yeah. So I teach the reflexology, clinical reflexology. On it's Sundays really, and it's tough. You know, the students are all a bit like startled with the amount of information, but thinking to last year's students, they're like, oh my God, we thought we would never get through it, but we're so glad we did. Because that knowledge, you've got to have that knowledge, because you can go and do a course on a weekend and open a business on a Monday.
No, can you?
Because there's no regulation.
Wow.
And that's where I'm really hot on everyone that comes and works at the barn has to be members of certain associations, because some of them are top notch and look for qualifications and want proof, whereas you can actually pay to be members of associations as well, and you know it's a bit lax.
But
reality, and you're dealing with people's health.
Exactly.
So you want knowledge. You want to know how to deal with someone if they suddenly have a breakdown in front of you, or if they try and get off the massage table and the back goes into spasm or something like that. You know, you need that knowledge to be able to deal with that.
All sorts of different things.
Absolutely. And with the teaching as well, that means that those students can go out and they can work in hospitals, they can work in hospices, because it's level 5 equivalent.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, so I can work with babies right through to anybody and everybody. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's brilliant. I love it.
Well, do you know what? Tonight has been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed
it. Everyone else has.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for coming in.
That's all right. You're welcome.
Anything else you wanted to say? I know it's past your bedtime.
I know. Yeah. Late night for me. I've got work tomorrow.
It's a school night. No gin, no tonight, my friend.
I know.
This was just water, honestly. So I think that's it.
Yeah, lovely.
You're all good.
Yeah, brilliant.
Anything else you wanted to
get
across?
No, you can come for your float. Come for reflexology, and you can report back.
Yeah. We can we'll get the rebel reflexologist in here, can't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Do a live foot massage.
She would. Not a foot massage, definitely reflexology.
So, well, thanks guys for listening and watching whatever you've been doing. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and I shall see you all here in the Caravan of Love for the next episode. Thank you ever so much. Take care. See you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, Tim.